11. Black R&B legends who were victims of domestic violence. They gave us anthems of love, freedom, and power, but behind the spotlight, some of the greatest R&B legends carried bruises the world never saw. From chart-topping queens to soulful icons, their voices shook arenas while their personal lives hid stories of pain, survival, and courage. What if the melodies you danced to were born from heartbreak and fear? Tonight we uncover the untold truths behind the music you thought you knew. Stay until the end, because these revelations will change how you see these legends forever. And don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe to join the conversation. Tina Turner. Born Anna Mae Bullock in Brownsville, Tennessee in 1939, Tina Turner rose from humble beginnings to become one of the greatest performers in music history. Yet behind the electric energy of her concerts and the glamour of worldwide fame lay years of pain that she would one day reveal with remarkable courage. In the late 1950s, Tina met Ike Turner and soon became the lead singer of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue. Their dynamic performances and chart-topping hits, including River Deep, Mountain High, and Proud Mary, made them household names throughout the 1960s and 1970s. But, privately, Tina endured a turbulent and violent marriage. In her autobiography, I, Tina 1986, she recounted episodes of physical abuse, financial control, and emotional manipulation, describing how fear and survival defined much of her life during those years. The breaking point came in 1976. After a particularly violent confrontation while en route to a concert, Tina fled with only 36 cents and a gas station credit card in her pocket. She filed for divorce shortly afterward, finalizing it in 1978. She walked away from nearly all their shared assets, including cars, real estate, and a recording studio, but insisted on keeping one thing: her stage name, Tina Turner. It became the foundation for her reinvention as a solo artist and ultimately as a symbol of resilience. Let's pause for a moment. If you were standing on stage, smiling under blinding lights while hiding bruises from the world, what would you have done? Tina's comeback in 1984 with the album Private Dancer was nothing short of historic. The single What's Love Got to Do With It won 3 Grammy Awards, including Record of the Year, and the album sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Over her lifetime, Tina sold more than 100 million records, earning her place among the best-selling artists of all time. Beyond the numbers, she used her platform to speak openly about domestic violence at a time when few celebrities dared to do so. Her honesty empowered countless survivors and helped break the stigma around discussing abuse. In later years, Tina embraced Buddhism, crediting her spiritual practice with helping her heal from trauma and find peace. When she passed away in May 2023 at the age of 83, tributes poured in from fans, artists, and survivors alike. Tina Turner's legacy is not only in her music, but in her journey from victim to victor, a story of survival, reinvention, and unwavering strength that continues to inspire generations. Keke Wyatt. Katara Keke Wyatt was born on March 10, 1980 in Indianapolis, Indiana. From early childhood, she carried a voice that stunned audiences in church choirs and local talent shows. As a teenager, she transitioned into R&B, and by the early 2000s, she became widely known for her powerful duet, Nothing in This World, with Avant. The song climbed the charts, making Keke one of the promising young artists of her generation and paving the way for albums like Soul Sister and Unbelievable. Yet beneath the rising fame was a personal life marked by turbulence. At a young age, Keke married her road manager, Ramat Morton. What began as love and partnership slowly descended into a cycle of abuse that she would later describe with raw honesty. Physical altercations, emotional manipulation, and constant fear became part of her private world, hidden from the audiences who only saw her dazzling performances. The turning point came on a chilling Christmas day, when a confrontation escalated beyond control. In fear for her life and the safety of her children, Keke stabbed Morton in what she later called an act of self-defense. The story made headlines, But behind the sensationalism was a woman who had endured years of torment before reaching a breaking point. In 2009, Kiki filed for divorce, determined to break free from the cycle of violence. She later spoke openly about her experiences, refusing to let fear or shame dictate her story. Her candor turned her into a voice for survivors, especially women afraid to leave abusive relationships. She collaborated with organizations supporting victims of domestic violence, urging others to speak up before it was too late. Despite personal turmoil, Kiki's career continued to thrive. She appeared on reality shows like R&B Divas Atlanta, released new music, and shared her journey as both an artist and a mother. Life brought more relationships, more children, and at times more challenges, but she embraced them with resilience rather than despair. Kiki Wyatt's story is not wrapped in a neat bow. It is a portrait of survival, defiance, and transformation. She turned her pain into advocacy, her struggles into songs, and her silence into a message for others still trapped in the shadows. Her powerful vocals carry not only melodies of love and loss, but also echoes of strength, proving that even in life's darkest chapters, a woman can reclaim her voice and rise again. Tammy Terrell. Tammy Terrell, born Thomasina Winifred Montgomery on April 29, 1945 in Philadelphia, seemed destined for greatness from the start. By her teens, she was already performing live, her bright, crystalline voice catching the attention of music executives. Signed to Motown Records in the mid-1960s, she quickly rose to fame through iconic duets with Marvin Gaye. Songs like Ain't No Mountain High Enough and You're All I Need to Get By turned her into one of Motown's most promising stars. On stage, she radiated warmth, youth, and optimism, yet behind the curtain, her private life told a far darker story. Before signing with Motown, Tammy became involved with singer James Brown at age 17. Accounts from friends and industry insiders later revealed a troubling relationship with reports of Brown's temper and allegations of physical violence. Tammy eventually ended things with him, but the scars, emotional and physical, remained. She later began dating David Ruffin, lead singer of The Temptations. At first, it seemed like a passionate romance between two rising stars. But as time went on, friends noticed a change in Tammy. She appeared with unexplained injuries and seemed increasingly withdrawn. Some rumors even claimed Ruffin once attacked her with a blunt object during a heated argument, though exact details were never fully confirmed. What was undeniable, however, was that the relationship left her deeply hurt and emotionally exhausted. Even as she endured turmoil in her personal life, Tammy continued performing with Marvin Gaye, creating some of the most beloved duets in Motown history. But the pressure on her health was mounting. In October 1967, while singing with Gaye at a concert in Virginia, Tammy collapsed on stage. Doctors soon discovered she had a brain tumor. Over the next 2.5 years, she underwent 8 surgeries while bravely continuing to record music whenever she could. Through it all, Marvin Gaye remained a devoted friend and confidant. Their musical chemistry captured hearts worldwide, but behind those harmonies lay the tragedy of a young woman fighting for her life after years of personal and physical struggles. Tammy Terrell passed away on March 16, 1970, at just 24 years old. Her funeral drew hundreds of fans and music legends, including Gaye, who was so devastated he reportedly took a long hiatus from performing afterward. Tammy's story is not only about talent lost too soon, it's also about resilience in the face of private suffering. She gave the world songs about love, hope, and devotion while carrying burdens no one should endure. Her voice still echoes through generations, a reminder that behind even the brightest stage lights, there can be shadows the audience never sees. Kellis. Kellis Rogers, born August 21, 1979 in Harlem, New York, brought something entirely new to R&B and hip-hop in the late 1990s and early 2000s. With her vibrant style, genre-bending beats, and bold personality, she broke through with the single Caught Out There in 1999, a track famous for its raw refrain, "I hate you so much right now." Her 2003 hit Milkshake became a cultural phenomenon, propelling her into global stardom. Known for edgy visuals and boundary-pushing sound, Kellis looked like the picture of confidence. But behind the glamour, she lived through a deeply painful chapter that she would only reveal years later. In 2005, Kellis married rapper Nas, one of hip-hop's most celebrated lyricists. To the public, they seemed like a power couple, successful, stylish, and iconic in their respective fields. But in a 2018 interview, Kellis described her marriage as abusive, alleging physical and emotional violence throughout the relationship. She said there were times she left with bruises all over her body, including while she was 7 months pregnant with their son. Nas denied these accusations, claiming their arguments never escalated to the level she described. The conflicting accounts sparked widespread debate, but for Kellis, speaking out was about more than public opinion. She said she had stayed silent for years out of fear and shame, worried no one would believe her or that her career might suffer. Ultimately, she chose to break that silence to reclaim her story and help others trapped in similar situations. Kellis filed for divorce in 2009, citing irreconcilable differences. The legal battle over custody and child support for their son Knight turned bitter and highly publicized, adding another layer of stress to an already painful split. But as she moved on, Kellis refused to let her personal experiences define or defeat her. She focused on her passions beyond music. Trained at the prestigious Le Cordon Bleu Culinary School, Kellis launched a career as a chef, releasing a cookbook and hosting a cooking show. She released new music on her own terms, explored entrepreneurial ventures, and built a new life for herself and her children, far removed from the chaos of her earlier years. Kellis has said that telling the truth about her marriage was both terrifying and liberating. It allowed her to shed the weight of secrecy while giving strength to women who felt voiceless. Her story became part of a larger conversation about domestic violence, celebrity relationships, and the silence victims often endure. She remains a figure of resilience, a woman who turned pain into empowerment, refusing to be defined by the scars left behind. Closed doors even as her music and style continue to influence a new generation of artists. Whitney Houston. Whitney Elizabeth Houston, born August 9, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, had a voice that critics described as the standard for pop vocals. Her range, power, and emotion turned songs like I Will Always Love You and Greatest Love of All into timeless classics. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, she shattered records, winning multiple Grammys, selling over 200 million records worldwide, and starring in blockbusters like The Bodyguard. To millions, she was the picture of beauty, success, and perfection. But behind the dazzling stage lights and flawless vocals, Whitney's personal life carried a storm the public only glimpsed in fragments. In 1992, she married singer Bobby Brown. At first, fans celebrated their union. A rising R&B star and the world's biggest pop diva seemed like a fairy tale match. Yet as years passed, reports of chaos inside their marriage began to surface. Whitney later admitted in interviews and her 2012 documentary, Whitney, that the relationship was passionate but volatile, with both love and pain intertwined. Allegations of physical and emotional abuse began circulating after several public incidents. In 2003, Bobby Brown was arrested for allegedly striking Whitney in the face, an event she confirmed left her with a bruised cheek. The case was later dismissed after she chose not to pursue charges, but the story fueled endless headlines and speculation about what really happened behind closed doors. Whitney and Bobby's relationship was also marked by heavy substance use, something Whitney publicly battled for years. She admitted in later interviews that drugs became an escape from mounting personal and professional pressures. What began as a love story gradually turned into a cycle of fights, reconciliations, and struggles with addiction that played out under relentless public scrutiny. In 2007, after 15 years of marriage, Whitney filed for divorce. She gained custody of their daughter, Bobbi Kristina, and appeared determined to rebuild her life and career. There were moments of triumph, a successful comeback album, I Look to You, in 2009, and a warmly received performance at the BET Awards the same year. Yet the toll of years battling inner demons remained visible. On February 11, 2012, Whitney Houston was found dead in a Beverly Hills hotel bathtub with drowning and the effects of heart disease and cocaine use cited as contributing factors. She was 48 years old. Whitney Houston's story is both luminous and heartbreaking. She gave the world unmatched musical brilliance while facing private battles that fame could neither erase nor protect her from. Her life reminds us that behind even the most extraordinary gifts can be a human being carrying unspoken pain, longing for peace beyond the spotlight. Natalie Cole. Natalie Maria Cole. Born February 6, 1950 in Los Angeles, was music royalty from the start. The daughter of legendary crooner Nat King Cole, she grew up surrounded by melodies, harmonies, and the glow of her father's fame. But Natalie was determined to carve her own path. In the 1970s, she burst onto the scene with hits like This Will Be an Everlasting Love and Inseparable, winning multiple Grammy Awards and proving she was more than just her father's daughter. Her soulful voice and magnetic presence made her a star in her own right. Yet behind the glamour and applause, Natalie faced private struggles that would shape her life and music. Her first marriage in 1976 to producer Marvin Yancey began with love and creative partnership. But friends and insiders later hinted at turbulence and control behind closed doors. The relationship was short-lived. By 1980, Yancey had passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack, leaving Natalie a widow with a young son. Before his death, she had also quietly endured periods of emotional strain in the marriage burdens she rarely discussed publicly, but that colored her personal journey. After Yancey's passing, Natalie spiraled into years of drug addiction. She later admitted to using heroin and crack cocaine at the height of her career, nearly destroying the legacy she had built. She described those years as a period of loneliness, pain, and self-doubt where success on stage sharply contrasted with chaos in her personal life. By the early 1980s, Natalie hit rock bottom. She entered rehab in 1983, determined to rebuild her life for herself and her son. Her recovery marked a turning point, not just personally but professionally. In 1987, she made a triumphant comeback with the album Everlasting, which included hits like Jump Start My Heart and I Live for Your Love. Fans celebrated the return of her unmistakable voice, richer now, carrying the weight of everything she had survived. But it was her 1991 album Unforgettable, with love, that truly cemented her legacy. Featuring a virtual duet with her late father on the classic Unforgettable, the album sold over 7 million copies in the US alone and won 6 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year. It was a moment of healing both for Natalie and the fans who had watched her fall and rise again. In later years, she continued to face health issues including hepatitis C and kidney failure, yet she performed and recorded as long as her strength allowed. When she passed away on December 31, 2015 at age 65, the world mourned not just a voice, but a woman who turned heartbreak, addiction, and loss into timeless art. Chaka Khan. Yvette Marie Stevens, known to the world as Chaka Khan, was born on March 23, 1953 in Chicago, Illinois. By the early 1970s, she was already turning heads as the fiery lead singer of the funk band Rufus. With hits like Tell Me Something Good and Sweet Thing, she earned the title Queen of Funk and became one of the most distinctive voices in R&B and soul. When she launched her solo career in 1978 with the smash hit I'm Every Woman, her place in music history was sealed. Behind the dazzling performances and glittering awards, however, Chaka carried private struggles few truly understood. Throughout her early career, Chaka navigated relationships marked by chaos, volatility, and pain. Friends and colleagues would later describe the ways she endured controlling and sometimes destructive partners while balancing the demands of fame. Some accounts hinted at explosive tempers and toxic dynamics that left her emotionally drained. Chaka herself rarely revealed every detail, choosing to guard her privacy, but her music often hinted at deeper wounds beneath the fearless persona she projected on stage. In interviews, Chaka admitted that the turmoil of her personal life pushed her toward substance abuse. Throughout the 1980s, as her career soared with hits like Through the Fire and Ain't Nobody, she was also battling addictions to alcohol and drugs. She described those years as a period when she felt trapped, torn between public adoration and private suffering. At times, the spotlight itself felt like both a blessing and a curse, offering success while exposing her to relationships that chipped away at her confidence and stability. Yet even in her darkest hours, Chaka Khan's artistry never wavered. Her voice, capable of moving from soft vulnerability to raw power in a single phrase, became the vehicle through which she processed heartbreak, disappointment, and survival. Fans felt the authenticity in every note because they sensed it came from lived experience. By the early 2000s, Chaka took bold steps to reclaim her life. She entered rehab, embraced sobriety, and began speaking candidly about her past. She wanted others, especially women in the music industry, to know that it was possible to break free from both abusive relationships and the cycles of addiction that often followed. Her resilience shone through in later projects, including collaborations with younger artists and performances that introduced her music to new generations. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023 as a solo artist, Chaka Khan stands not just as a musical icon, but as a woman who turned personal battles into anthems of empowerment. Her story reminds us that behind even the boldest voices can be a heart that has fought to be heard and to heal. Mary J. Blige. Mary Jane Blige, born January 11, 1971, in the Bronx, New York, grew up in an environment shaped by hardship, music, and resilience. By the early 1990s, she earned the title Queen of Hip-Hop Soul after her debut album, What's the 411, changed the sound of R&B forever. Her raw blend of soulful melodies with hip-hop beats gave listeners something new, songs that felt like journal entries set to rhythm. Hits like Real Love and Be Without You made her a global superstar. But Mary's lyrics carried weight because they came from a place of truth, a life marked by personal pain long before the fame. Mary has openly spoken about growing up in the Schlobohm housing projects, where she witnessed domestic violence between her mother and father. The sound of shouting, breaking glass, and doors slamming left a permanent imprint on her childhood. She described watching her mother endure abuse, vowing she would never fall into the same cycle, yet life would prove more complicated. As her career soared, Mary entered relationships marked by emotional turmoil and, by her own admission, physical abuse. She revealed in interviews that she endured controlling and toxic partners who eroded her confidence even as she became a multi-platinum artist. She rarely shared specific names, but the pain surfaced in her music, especially on her 1994 album, My Life. My Life became a landmark record because it wasn't just about heartbreak, it was about survival. Fans connected with the raw honesty in tracks like I'm Going Down and Be Happy, sensing the voice of a woman fighting her way out of darkness. Mary later explained that creating the album was therapy, a way to process years of trauma, substance abuse, and depression that stemmed partly from abusive relationships and childhood wounds. As the years passed, Mary fought her way toward stability. She married her former manager, Kendu Isaacs, in 2003, hoping for lasting happiness. Yet by 2016, she filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and accusing him of infidelity and emotional cruelty. The split became a legal and financial battle, but Mary refused to let it break her spirit. She poured her pain into more albums, each one reflecting growth and self-empowerment. Tracks like No More Drama and Just Fine carried a new message, healing independence and self-worth. Mary J. Blige has since earned 9 Grammy Awards, an Academy Award nomination, and worldwide respect as an icon who turned her wounds into wisdom. Her journey shows that even when someone carries scars from childhood and love gone wrong, they can still rise, rebuild, and inspire millions with their truth. Michelle Denise Toussaint, born in Los Angeles in 1967, carried a voice unlike any other, light and delicate in tone, yet powerful enough to cut through the noise of late 1980s R&B. Her breakthrough came with the hit single No More Lies in 1989, a track that climbed the charts and made her debut album a success. To the outside world, Michelle was on her way to stardom. But behind closed doors, her life was marked by a series of painful relationships that would haunt her for decades. Michelle entered a long relationship with Dr. Dre at the height of his career. In interviews years later, she recounted a pattern of physical violence that left her with multiple injuries, including a broken nose requiring surgery, black eyes, and even a dislocated jaw. She described living in constant fear, feeling trapped between love, loyalty, and the reality of repeated harm. The emotional scars ran as deep as the physical ones, pushing her toward alcohol and prescription drugs as a way to cope. When she finally left Dre after discovering his infidelity, Michelle believed she might find stability elsewhere. Instead, her marriage to Suge Knight, co-founder of Death Row Records, brought its own turmoil. Though brief and legally complicated, she later revealed that this relationship also involved episodes of violence and control, leaving her feeling like her personal life was spiraling beyond her reach. For Michelle, the answer came years later when she chose to tell her story publicly. In 2016, the biographical film Surviving Compton Dre, Suge and Michelle premiered, dramatizing her experiences and shining a light on the abuse she endured. Speaking out was both liberating and controversial, sparking conversations about domestic violence in the music industry and beyond. Despite the turmoil, Michelle continued to create music and appear on reality shows like R&B Divas Los Angeles. Her voice remained instantly recognizable, a blend of sweetness and strength that contrasted sharply with the chaos of her personal life. Today, Michelle's story stands as more than a tale of survival. It is a reminder that behind the polished surface of fame, real people fight private battles the public rarely sees. By sharing her truth, she transformed silence into empowerment, showing others that even after years of pain, it is possible to reclaim both your life and your voice. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Louise Franklin, born on March 25, 1942 in Memphis, Tennessee, grew up surrounded by music and faith. The daughter of renowned preacher C.L. Franklin, she began singing gospel in church as a child, her powerful voice captivating congregations long before the world would call her the Queen of Soul. By the 1960s, Aretha was a cultural force, blending gospel passion with R&B, jazz, and pop to create timeless hits like Respect Chain of Fools and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. With 18 Grammy Awards and over 75 million records sold, she became a symbol of female empowerment, civil rights, and artistic excellence. But behind the commanding stage presence and soaring vocals, Aretha endured private struggles that she rarely spoke about publicly. At just 19 years old, she married Ted White in 1961, a man who would also become her manager. To outsiders, he appeared as a supportive husband guiding her career. But those close to the couple later described a relationship marked by control tension and emotional turmoil. Some reports suggested that White's temper and jealousy created an atmosphere of fear and instability, even as Aretha's fame skyrocketed. The marriage lasted 8 years, ending in 1969, but the emotional scars lingered long afterward. Aretha chose not to disclose many details, leaving the public with only fragments of the truth. Biographers and friends hinted at manipulation and verbal abuse, yet the Queen of Soul carried herself with unwavering dignity, refusing to let personal pain overshadow her musical legacy. Throughout her career, Aretha's music often reflected resilience and independence. Songs like Respect became anthems for women's rights and racial equality, embodying defiance and pride. Yet the woman behind the microphone knew firsthand the struggle to claim respect not just on stage, but in her own home. After her divorce from White, Aretha focused on raising her children and advancing her career, keeping her private life guarded. Over time, she became known not just for her extraordinary talent, but also for her insistence on personal boundaries. She rarely granted interviews about her relationships, choosing instead to let her music speak for her. Despite personal challenges, Aretha achieved historic milestones, the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005, and performer at the inaugurations of Presidents Carter Clinton and Obama. Her journey from a teenage gospel singer to a global icon remains unparalleled. When Aretha Franklin passed away on August 16, 2018, tributes poured in from presidents, musicians, and fans worldwide. They celebrated her voice, her activism, and her strength, knowing that even though she carried private wounds, she turned them into songs that gave generations the courage to demand dignity, love, and respect. Faith Evans. Faith Renee Evans. Born June 10, 1973 in Lakeland, Florida, grew up in Newark, New Jersey, surrounded by gospel choirs and church music. By the early 1990s, her talent as a songwriter and singer caught the attention of Sean "Puffy" Combs, who signed her to his Bad Boy Records label in 1994. As the first female artist on the roster, Faith quickly rose to prominence, contributing her voice to some of the era's defining R&B and hip-hop tracks. Her debut album, Faith 1995, featuring hits like Soon as I Get Home, showcased a warm, soulful tone that made her a star almost overnight. But while her career was flourishing, Faith's personal life was far more complicated. In 1994, she married rapper Christopher Wallace, better known as the Notorious B.I.G. Their relationship was as high-profile as it was turbulent. Both were young, navigating fame rumors and the pressures of the music industry. Allegations of infidelity and emotional strain followed them constantly, fueled by tabloid headlines and rivalries that dominated the hip-hop world of the 1990s. Some reports suggested that their marriage was marred by heated arguments and moments of volatility, though Faith rarely revealed specific details. She maintained a level of privacy, choosing not to let the world dissect every aspect of her personal struggles. Still, the pain sometimes surfaced in her music, giving her love songs and ballads an added layer of emotional depth. Tragedy struck in 1997 when the Notorious B.I.G. was murdered in Los Angeles, a crime that remains officially unsolved. Faith, widowed at just 24, was left to raise their son while managing her grief in the public eye. That same year, she recorded I'll Be Missing You with Puff Daddy and 112, a tribute to her late husband that topped charts worldwide and earned a Grammy Award. Faith later remarried and continued to release albums, but whispers about controlling relationships and emotional wounds persisted over the years. Her 2008 memoir, Keep the Faith, offered glimpses into the challenges she faced not only in love, but also while navigating a male-dominated music industry that often reduced women to side notes in their own stories. Despite personal hardships, Faith Evans built an impressive career spanning decades. She released multiple gold and platinum albums, collaborated with icons like Whitney Houston and Mary J. Blige, and became known as the First Lady of Bad Boy Records. Faith's story is one of talent, triumph, and resilience. She carried private pain with dignity while giving the world songs about love, loss, and hope. Through it all, she proved that even when life brings heartbreak, a voice can rise above the noise and turn sorrow into timeless art. These stories of legendary voices remind us that talent and tragedy often share the same stage. Behind platinum records and sold-out concerts were lives marked by love, pain, resilience, and survival. But here's the question, one that only you, our Legends of Black Excellence community, can answer. Should we remember these icons solely for their art, or also for the private battles they endured? Did their pain shape the very music that changed the world, or should it remain separate from their legacy? Share your thoughts below because this conversation is far from over.